All right, we will call the meeting to order. Jen, would you take roll, please?
Commissioner Corbin.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Walter.
Here.
Commissioner Thel.
Here.
And Mayor Lindsay.
Here. I'd like to welcome the Leadership Madison participants. And it's nice to actually look out there and see that there are people sometimes in those chairs and not just air. So when we get to the end of the meeting and that, I'll make an announcement. So if you have any questions you want to put before the commission and that, we would love to have your input. So with that, we have before you the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no appearances and acknowledgements, is there anything anyone wants to remove from the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under old business, second reading of ordinance number 1584, water rates and charges.
Go ahead.
Mr. Corbin, did you want to address that?
We went over these a few weeks ago, but I guess just to review, they'll remain the same as last year with the exception of residential 5/8 3/4 inch meters. The minimum will be going up $2 a month from $22.10 up to $24.10. And then the 4-inch meters going up a bit too, going from $742.59 a month up to $809.11 a month for the minimum. That's a really big meter. You get a lot of water from that. There's only one of them in town. So that's the change for water. Everything else is the same, I believe, correct?
Correct.
All right. Questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve second reading ordinance number 1584, water rates and charges.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Second reading of ordinance number 1585, electric rates and charges. And again, I'll ask Mr. Corbin if he wants to address that one.
Electric rates are going up. Will be going up 1% next year, which is the smallest rate increase we've had in a number of years. So that's good news, at least the way I look at it. That's the only change. We're going up 1%.
Questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ordinance number 1585.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 3, second reading of ordinance number 1586, wastewater user charges. And again, I'll ask Mr. Corbin if he'd want to address that.
Now, again, we're just like water, we're raising the minimums on sewer. Residential minimums will be going up at $2.50 a month from $12.50 up to $15. And then commercial users are going up $5 a month from $25 a month to $30. And in that, the extra meter charges are also going up $2.50 a month, going up to $12.50. It'll be the same as the water extra meter charge now.
For the benefit of the audience, one of the things that we worked on, I think maybe a year or two ago, was we had a lot of customers in town that had water meters and or electric meters, and they were just never ever using them. And so we did kind of get that cleared up a little bit in different areas. So it's one of the things that we worked on, because it cost us to provide that meter and to provide that service. And if it's not being used, then we need to make sure that we recoup our costs for it. Otherwise, it's costing us money, and it's just not fair to everybody else. So just thought I'd throw that little part in there.
All right, we try to make our rates as equitable as possible. Whatever burden you put on the system, we try to charge appropriately.
Yeah.
So it's one of my priorities anyway, and the rest of the commission agrees with me. So
I'll make a motion we approve second reading ordinance number 1586, wastewater user charges.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Second reading of ordinance number 1587, refuse collection fees. And Kelly, did you want to address that? Or?
Our monthly fees are the 65-gallon cart will be going up to $15.75, and the 95-gallon cart will be going up to $19. And the two 30-gallon cans, $19. I forgot my list of what the current fee is. Do you remember what they are off the top of your head?
The 65 gallon is $14.75, so it's from $14.75 to $15.75. And then the 95 gallon cart along with the two 30 gallon carts, if you opt for that choice. Right now they're 18, they're going to 19.
Thank you, Jim.
Very good.
Questions?
Other questions or comments?
We have a, he must have a comment on this.
The next one?
Oh, on the next one?
I do.
Okay.
Excuse me.
So what, for a residential person, how many, or what are we talking for like total amount that it, like my bill would go up?
$1 a month, basically.
For all
For
these
all, like all of the things you were just working on?
Oh, for the water, electric, and all the way through. At this point in time, if we take it by percentages, it would be 1% or less. So if you add up all of your bills and that, the total would probably be 1% or less. Mhm. Does that answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion on 1587?
I'll make a motion, we approve second reading, ordinance number 1587, refuge collection fees.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Second reading of ordinance number 1588, restricted use site fees. And again, I'll ask Mr. Johnson if he'd like to address that one.
If they're hauled by a pickup truck, it's $15 a load, and then hauled by other means, it's $10 a cubic yard.
Okay. And that's up from,
Again,
Pickup was $10 a load, so from $10 to $15 a load. The other was $7.50 per cubic yard. It will now go up to $10 per cubic yard.
thank you.
This is one of those fees that haven't been
It's not
increased
raised
in
Sometime,
quite a few years, correct?
Quite a few years.
yes.
2011, I believe, was the last time.
Right before we dug the last hole, it was kind of the consensus, and I'm probably the only one here that was at that meeting. There wasn't enough volume coming in, so the rates had to go up to just overall keep the place open. And then we went ahead and dug the last cell that we just covered. And it went from 5 to 750, so it went up 33% at that time. Or no, 50%. And then this time was going from 750 to 10, which would be 33%. But granted, it's been 5 years.
I want to say 2011, does
Yeah,
that sound
that's
right?
what he said. I think that's correct.
I was gonna say, was it then or was it before that?
It was 2011. We can look tomorrow, but I
It
believe
was the same time John Deere was built, because Sayer did the engineering on both and the same dirt company did both. So however that figures out, it was at the same time. And I don't have the year down. I just, as long as I'm talking, I always thought 750 was kind of high. Not necessarily against an increase, I'm not, because I know it costs money to operate the place. And we spent money on the compactor, which is obvious, that does a good job in it, and that's been worth the money, even though it's kind of spendy for the size of our operation. But that's supposed to, offset some of the cost increases too, because we're saving a lot of space. And that money was just spent a year ago, so there
Year before, I think it was
was it
two?
years ago?
Yeah, we'd hoped to get at least 2 years out of that cell because of the compactor. We got about 1.5 really.
Okay, this summer and last summer,
Mhm.
it was in use, so it's been 2 years now,
Yeah.
past 2 years. And it did make quite a bit of difference, and it does a better job.
It does, it really
So
does.
it's cleaner, but there again, that was intended to save money,
Mhm.
and now we're going up again too, so.
Mhm.
I'd like to see it stay as cheap as possible, not necessarily no increase, so that's
Mhm.
my feelings.
Well, and that's what we try to do too, even on all of these, utilities and that. So we just dug a new cell. And that enclosed the old one, and the new cell was about $85,000 just to dig the hole in the ground, you know, so.
Is that including engineering cost?
I'd have to ask Chad on that.
I believe it was about 70 with engineer, excuse me. No, it was about 80 with engineering.
With engineering
About
costs.
65, and then about 15 or 14
Yeah.
on top of that.
So, I mean,
Mhm.
I know the engineering cost is part of it, you know,
Mhm.
and before, back when we were a bona fide plan bill, you know, the city engineer was doing the work then. So
Mhm.
that cost of the overall cost of each cell wasn't, you know, as dramatic because we
Right.
did that in-house. And those, you know, we're budgeting that into the fee structure now, where before, that portion of the money was, you know, the city was, with the engineer already in place, was picking up that percentage of the cost. And I'm not sure how all the paperwork works within the departments, but that was a lot less at that time.
Well, that was 20 years ago, too.
True.
Beyond 20 years ago, so.
But I'm just saying.
Sure.
I'm just saying it was done
Right.
in-house.
Mhm.
And Chad said, you know, I remember when this was gonna be engineered, they were too busy with the roads. Well, that being said, you know, it's an engineering cost. To me, it's an engineering cost, and, you know, the engineers department, I don't know how that's all funded, if it's all on streets or the public utilities or what, but we're dumping all the engineering cost onto the cost of the rubble site here, where.
Actually, if you go through engineering costs and that, whatever time is spent on any of them is all dumped onto whatever that particular job
So
is.
the engineering department is funded through.
All
individual
all
departments?
areas,
Okay.
all areas. Mhm. Yep.
I was just, you know, I'm looking for ways to save money there.
Mhm. Nope, understood.
And some of those costs were
Yeah.
offset by a grant that we received.
Yeah, we received a $17,000 grant,
And-
which basically took care of the engineering costs, you
All
know.
things
but-
considered with this last cell,
Mhm.
compared to what we paid for the prior one, if they're
Mhm.
roughly the same size, is a good deal in the scope of it, so.
This one, I think, might be just a little bit bigger than the last one. It's a little bit deeper than the last one. So hopefully it'll give us, you know, more occupancy in that before we have to close it up and open another one.
Yeah. Well, I just, you know, it's part of my duty to.
Nope,
Appreciate
totally
that.
understood.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Person that use it should stay as cheap as possible.
You mentioned the first cell 20 years ago. Did we talk about that somewhere in here? Or did we go by that?
No, he talked about the old landfill. The old
And the city
landfill
used
was
to do it
closed.
themselves.
Yep.
Were restrictions different at that time, engineering restrictions, or the way we did it 20 years ago? I mean, I know it's hard for you, but,
I don't know.
because that would certainly change the complexion of things. You know, how regulation.
Versus
change.
a solid waste landfill, the regulations are way less.
Yes.
And,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
going forward, I think if we went to the letter of the law, and this might be the attorney's job to look this up, but, you know, is it much more than plotting where we're at and giving a description of the hole? You know, we're $14,000 of engineering for digging a hole, it seems like a lot. And I know it's precisely located where the corners and everything are, the side slopes. But we're not dealing with compaction test, you know, we're just digging a hole.
But you also have to have, you know, you cannot break through the clay layer. So, you know, there's more that goes into it now, you know, than used to. And that's also part of why, you know, over 20 years ago in that we stopped maintaining our own garbage dump and we have to haul to Brookings or Sioux Falls now, is because of regulation changes.
Right. And
So,
I guess my point would be, you know, go to the actual law and kind of go from a minimum basis on the engineering costs going forward instead of, you know, this is what we want. But I understand you guys' work. I'll say my original point again.
mhm.
I'm not necessarily opposed to increase, it's just I like to say, you know,
One of the
Save
thi-
some money places.
As long as we're talking about this, but a part of it that happened to us that, when we move all the clay out, when we open the hole, a lot of times we use some of that to cover the last cell we were in. And it's interesting because this time there was a lot more clay taken out than we surmised the last time. I think we had to haul dirt in this time to cover the last cell, if I remember right. So it gets to be more of the cost. Because we had to cover it with, dirt that's farmable,
Yeah, maybe
if possible.
top cover from the existing, there's not much topsoil out there.
No.
And to create enough topsoil for the proper cover, you gotta borrow from more than just the area to excavate. I understand.
It was
Sometimes,
even greater
yes.
than we thought this
And
time.
there was, from the, way back from the original landfill, there was a supply pile there dedicated for final cover. I don't know if they borrowed off that or not, but topsoil, so.
At your point, we'll end up, whoever sits in these chairs, the next time we fill this one up, is gonna probably have to come up with more black dirt and more topsoil, because this is so much clay there right now, there's a pile of clay out there, it's unbelievable, so,
Well,
compared to the last time we opened too,
Right,
so,
but-
those costs will be, have to be added.
There's not
next
much
time, too.
topsoil there to start with.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the hills that have been farmed, and there's just not
Good
much
point.
for proper cover, I understand.
I know we didn't answer your question
Well,
in that, but, we try to keep the costs as cheap as we can, for the taxpayer and everyone that's using it. And yet, make it also fair for the taxpayer.
I did a quick
So-
search here, if I may. I did a quick search here for the last, a fee schedule, and back in 2008, in June of 2008, was one of the last times we revised these fees, and they were still that $7.50 per cubic yard and $10 per pickup load. So
Right.
even back
So
in
it's been-
2008, it's been quite some time.
right, and that's,
Since they've been
I
changed.
understand that, over the course of the past, however many years, I have had individuals ask me, can you haul my stuff and building demolition to my farm or to here? No, I won't, I gotta go to the dump. And I've been asked that on occasion just because of the cost, and mainly it's bigger projects. And whether it's, commercial buildings, or houses that need to be torn down, that's why I'd like to keep that cost down so it gets done. Rosebud went out here into this, the hole was capped.
As did the Salem, anybody here from Salem? Anybody here from Salem? Are they from?
Salem-
Schools out there
Salem
right
Schools
now.
out there, too.
Yes, well, and along with the clinic and whatever happened this summer, but I'm just saying, the Rosebud building was in that.
Yeah.
The East River, the former wing portion of building, not this last piece, but that went in the cell prior to this one, so, it's been in there a long time, so. I'm done.
Well, thank you for your input. So, other questions or comments? Okay, if not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance number 1588, restricted use site fees.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under new business, resolution number 2016-22, approve a plat. And I'm going to ask Chad. Chad, do you want to address this one?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I can talk about it briefly. This is a plat, it's a subdivision of what's described as Lot 4, Block 2 in Lakeview Industrial Park right now. It's where the spec building is located. Ms. Gross approached me about platting off the ground around that area. And so we reviewed the plat according to our subdivision regulations. It doesn't have to go through the full planning commission because it's a partial replat of a plat that's already there. And so you have that in your agenda packet. I would recommend that you approve the plat. By approving the resolution, it will approve the plat. And then we'll be able to proceed with getting that to Mrs. Gross.
Questions or comments?
What does this mean what's the effect when we approve a plat, Chad? What is this?
Basically, there's a parcel of ground there now that is about 8.3 acres. This subdivides off. This is somewhat unique in that they're just subdividing a portion of a previous plat. It isn't always the way it works, but that's why it's somewhat of a replat, and that's why you can do this without going through the planning commission, because it's already the original plat has already went through that process. And so this breaks it down, the 8.3 acre parcel, into a smaller parcel of about 3 acres, and it happens to be in the area, surrounding the area where that building is. I don't know if that's gonna be, the ground and the building are going to be, that's their business, so to speak, but they're going to either sell that or lease it separately as all that ground and such. And then they can also, in the future, subdivide off and plat other parts of the original lot 4 as well. So, yeah, just briefly,
They maybe
that's,
have a company that's looking at it.
Yeah.
There is a potential buyer.
yeah.
And the way it was platted originally in that, it had more space in there so that you could bring in, somebody who needed that space. The potential buyer in that doesn't need all that extra space and would like to purchase less, and so
There's room
that's
for,
part of the
there's room for
replatting.
multiple more buildings to be served by
And then
mutual
this
access
allows
easement.
for another building to be built
Yeah.
on that property as well.
And this went through the
It
zoning
didn't,
district?
didn't need to.
Because this is a replat.
Yeah, it's a
because
replat.
The original plat was done, went through that process.
Concerns?
No, it's just a formality. It's good to know that they're doing it, but I don't see any reason not to do it.
Is that a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2016-22, approve a plat.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2, approve the 2017 alcoholic beverage license application renewals for liquor and wine. And Jen, are all of those that are eligible in this packet
They're
now?
all part of this package. Yes,
So-
we have them all as a one-time.
So there are no
renewal this way.
stragglers?
No stragglers.
Okay.
No, we took care of that.
Very good.
Okay. So you have in front of you all of the 2017 renewals for the retail liquor, the packaged liquor, and then the retail wine. The only change I would note is the gentleman who was here to speak to you last week, Mr. Gruenwald, he is now part of the renewal process, because he was approved last week. We do check these very thoroughly. We also check to make sure that each of these businesses has their year-to-date property taxes paid. Justin overlooks the names of the vendors for us to make sure there's no felony concerns, anything like that. Good to go?
Okay.
You answered the questions I was going to ask.
And the Justin she's referring to is the police chief.
Police chief.
Justin Meyer, Chief Meyer. As Public Safety Commissioner, I also double check with him and make sure that the businesses are in good standing. I will say this year, we did have an issue with one of them, but it appears to be resolved, and so he was definitely gave his okay to approve everybody that's on here. But again, for your benefit, you guys picked a fun night, and because the bottom line is if the commission does not allow these to go through, then your favorite establishments you may like to go and visit wouldn't be able to sell liquor or alcohol at. And it's a formality, but yet it is a great check from the felonies to making sure that they are businesses that are up to date as far as the taxes and everything as well. So, and we do this annually. So just thought I'd throw that out.
How many of them are there?
Oh, man.
11?
There's only 11. Oh,
11? I believe, don't quote me, 10 or 11.
Should we go through them
We're maxed,
individually?
if
I
that's what
didn't
you're
count 'em.
asking, we're maxed.
Should we go through them individually?
No.
Okay.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve 2017 alcohol beverage license application renewals, liquor, wine.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Rosie?
That indicates hard liquor as well as malt liquor.
Nope, malt beverage are on a different time frame. Those we'll see in June, effective July. They have a different renewal. So these are only hard liquor and wine. Malt beverage will come at a later date.
Okay. Number 3, approve the revision to the personnel policy for workers' compensation. And, David, do you want to address that, or, or Jen? All right.
Just a very simple change, as was requested by us to work comp policy 8.1.6. We simply added a sentence that says, in exceptional circumstances, upon written request from a department supervisor and employee, the Board of Commissioners may grant additional sick leave to an employee who is involved in an on-duty illness or injury.
Basically, in a nutshell, I'll speak on this a little bit. It's a way for our city employees, we have approximately 62, 65, something like that. And it's a way for them to know that if they're on duty and working on the job and they get injured or some sort of illness as a result of that, if the commission so deems it, it still has to be voted on by the commission. But it's a good method for us to show our employees that we have their back if they do get injured and they get hurt. And so it's kind of a nice, clean way to kind of put it in an ordinance, make it codified basically for our city, but yet it still comes back to the commission. So it's not a blank check by any means, but if somebody does have an issue, then we can take care of it. Is that a good way to put it, Jen?
Sure.
But it is important to realize also that there are other things that have to occur before that, subject to workman's comp and those kinds of things. So it's a critical piece for us, and for our employees, but also one that we have to be cautious on. We just don't blatantly hand out sick leave beyond what the possibilities are until certain criteria have been met. So.
With
Other
that,
questions or comments?
I'll make a motion that we approve revision to personnel policy 8.1.6, workers' compensation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Declare as surplus property, appoint appraisers, and authorize proper disposal of the Madison, it's referred to in here as Dog Pound, but the old animal shelter, which handled dogs, cats, and others. It has been replaced with a new one. And so the old one is going to see a new location.
So what we need to do here, FYI, air conditioner, anything salvageable from that old unit has been taken out.
Have been.
Front door front door taken out. We would appraise it at 0. It's not worth anything. Authorized for its proper disposal, which is for our Public Works Department to pick it up and haul it out to the restricted use site.
And the three people in that are Robert Thill, Jennifer Eimers, and Chad Comas.
I'll make a motion to declare the surplus property and appoint appraisers for the old animal shelter. Read the names too. Robert Thill, Jennifer Eimers, and Chad Comas.
Authorized for proper disposal, please.
Okay.
Authorized for proper disposal.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under announcements, the new animal shelter will have an open house tomorrow, I believe it is, from 5 to 6 p.m. So for those of you that are not familiar with where it's located, it is located just on the north side of the recycling center on the west side of Madison. So it is definitely an improvement from what we've had in the past, and will serve not only the citizens of Madison, but also the citizens of Lake County as well for years to come. So with that, seeing no executive session, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Do we want to ask if they have any questions first? We're going to do that after.
Yes.
Can we need to stay in session to answer questions?
I would stay in the answer.
Okay.
Okay. Open for the audience. Do you have any questions?
You can all speak at once if you want.
Yeah, we already called it to order.
These other four might bite, but I don't.
You know-
Think about it, was there a particular area that we talked about that kind of stood out to you that even a little bit was of interest to you? No. Besides, good question on your utilities and such.
I think that maybe the process of determining the rate increases for each of those is, from a business standpoint, I'd be interested in how you come up with those. He was, the gentleman that was here said that there was a 50% hike and now a 33% hike. I know that it comes down to expenses and margin and things like that. I'd be interested in learning how you guys do that.
In referring to, you know, what he was talking about there, the changes that were made tonight have not been done, as Jen mentioned, since 2008. Had we been making them, you know, adjusted each year, it would not seem near as tough. In terms of the utility rates and that is something that is looked at not just annually, but every month. The city is fortunate to have the control of our water system, our electrical system, and wastewater and so forth. And so with that, we purchase power and we get power from the federal government. And so we have the cost of power, and then the cost of generation, and then the cost of maintaining the system, and then providing that power to the citizens of Madison. The other advantage to that is that if you have your power through a private company that's a for-profit company, then you also have additional taxes and fees that you have to pay to the state. So when you have a municipal utility, oftentimes the electric and the utilities in that come in much cheaper, and that because of it. Each of the people up here, including myself, have departments that they oversee. So when we were in the first ones in that's why I directed it to Commissioner Corbin. And then when we were in the Public Works Department, that's when I addressed it to Commissioner Johnson. So even though it seems like, you know, we have 5-minute meetings and 30-minute meetings and it goes pretty fast, there's a lot of homework that's done by everyone up here before we even get to the meetings here and that. So, Commissioner Corbin, would you like to add any more to that in explaining how you came up with the 1%?
Well, on the water and sewer, we raised the minimums, and I like to break out our costs on our utilities based on production costs, put them on the per unit charge, and then capital expenses, put them on our minimums, because there's value in having water delivered to your house in a spigot. If you go out in the middle of the night and turn it on, it's there. That costs money. It costs the city money to do that, and you pay for it. We'll pay for it. And then the same token, when you flush your toilet in the middle of the night, it works. It doesn't back up. So there's value in having that service available, and you pay for that in your minimums. And then we haven't raised the unit costs in water and sewer since I've been here, I don't believe. And those, I think we pay about $3.16 per 100 cubic feet of water. That's how you pay for your water, by the way, in increments of 100 cubic feet. Does anybody know how many gallons that is? It's 748, but I hate 100 cubic feet selling it that way, but that's the way we do it, because nobody knows what it is. Anyway, for every 748 gallons of water you buy, it costs you $3.16, I believe, which works out to about 0.316 cents per gallon. That's really cheap, if you ask me. I'd like to see, long-term, a sustainable system like a penny a gallon would probably be an appropriate rate. When we factor in the minimum, you're probably getting close to that, but we're not there yet. Did I answer your question? I'm kind of rambling now, but, and then electric, we're kind of bound by what the people we purchase our power from, they pass their costs on to us, and that's the largest driver in what we're gonna charge for rates, so that's where that came from.
The reason I asked was because if there's somebody that has a significant interest in an area, there are a number of committees that work on these things before they come to us, and that's a good place to start.
And we do have an electric advisory committee that
Great.
looks into this as well. So,
Mayor Lindsay and commissioners, could you possibly refer to and explain how the rotation of terms are within the tenure and the activity of the commission that makes a difference on the fact that we never have a completely new commission and
Okay.
mayor and commission together?
I can go ahead and address that. Everything is set up on 3-year terms. Mayor is 3 years, and when the mayor runs, he runs as mayor. 2 of the commissioners will run the following year, and again, they will run for a 3-year term. 2 of the commissioners will run again for the next year, and that again for 3-year terms. And then it comes back to the mayor again, who again runs for a 3-year term. So every year there's an election, and it'll either be for 2 commissioners or it'll be for the mayor. And a lot of this is governed by state legislature. When I decided to run for mayor, I came in and I asked Mayor Hexum, I said, do you have a job description? He goes, haven't been asked that before. And I said, well, how do you determine everything? He says, you go online and it's all in state law. And so depending on the size of your town and the size of your community, state law gives you some options. It doesn't dictate exactly, but it gives you some options as to how the city government can be operated for that size of municipality. Did I say that correctly?
That's right. You're one of 15 commission forms of government in the state. There aren't many of you. Most city governments are aldermanic, which is a very different style. I'm the city attorney in Howard, and that's an aldermanic system. The mayor has more power there than you have, Mayor.
Mm-hmm. I don't have any here. I do not get to make a motion, but I do get to vote on motions that are made.
Tomorrow morning in the courthouse, I'll bring a sheet of paper that you guys can have that lists out exactly how that form of government works. And to just expand on that a little bit more is, you see you got the Utilities Commissioner, Corbin, the Streets and Public Works Commissioner, Johnson, I'm Public Safety Commissioner, and then the Finance Commissioner, Thiel, covers the Finance Office. So that's the
Then I have
form
the
of
engineering
government,
department.
And then, yep, the mayor oversees the engineering department. And then, based on that also, then we split up whoever else is on other boards. And so this isn't our only meeting that we come to on a weekly basis. Some weeks it gets pretty wild on the amount of meetings and different things that you need to get done. Like community center board, I know you're on the electric board, parks board, airport board.
and chamber, LAIC.
And I'm LAIC as well in that, and then I attend a number of the other board meetings and that are out there as well.
So we got to see you approve all the motions. How often do you actually decline to approve a motion? By the time it gets to this point, it's just like.
Yeah.
It's rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually pretty
it is
rare.
If one says nay, is it kind of majority rules?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
If
And
something
we have
isn't gonna
had-
make it, usually we address that before it gets to the meeting, typically. You know.
Yeah.
We do have nays, but it's rare that motions fail.
Our committees do a lot of work, ahead of time, and we may tweak a committee's recommendation a little bit and hone it the way we think it should be. But yeah, very rare do we go against a committee, and I think a lot of that's because there's citizens that are on those committees, they're closest to the issue than what we are. I know Commissioner Corbin's all in on the, electric area, and I pay attention to it, but I'm busy over here in my area, and so, yeah, if a committee comes up with a recommendation, we're probably gonna follow it or catch them beforehand and say, listen, this, I don't like, address my concern before it comes up to the full commission. I think it's the best way to put that.
And one you've probably heard about, most recently is the sidewalk committee. We have a sidewalk committee made up of citizens, and it goes back to when Mayor Huners was mayor. And I was one of the people that he called and asked to be on that committee at that point in time, and he's passed away 8-9 years ago, something like that, But the sidewalk committee meets, and they meet with the engineering department, and they go over, take a look at the town, take a look at, the needs of the town. Safety is usually the first aspect in that they look at. And then they put together something, that fits in what the city budgets each year for taking care of the handicap ramps and that. And then if there are questions in that, we ask the questions of them in that while they're in that process. And so when they finally bring the proposal, we've pretty much, seen what they've had to present. They've answered any questions the commissioners may have had. And so when it does get to this point and that, oftentimes in that, a lot of that work has already been done.
Keith, along with your question, the responsibilities that we have are not elected. Like if I didn't run again this next spring, as a commissioner of public works does not necessarily mean whoever gets elected will become commissioner of public works. Those appointments are made after the commission is elected. So, in fact, we did that just a couple of years ago. We changed. I was originally worked with Jen, our finance officer, and finances, and moved over to public works a year ago. Bob, now commissioner of public finance. Those things can change quickly, or you're in the responsibilities for a long time. But that goes along with what you're asking about sometimes too, because some of us have other areas that we're interested in, have some expertise in it, bring to the table. So, but those are made right before we did the new commission takes office.
They're usually made when the commission first takes office. Yeah, when the commission first takes office.
That's an important piece because a lot of times people run for election with a real desire to serve in a particular area or have some interest in it. And so there's that critical piece for me.
And don't get us wrong, there's plenty of things that
Yeah.
we get blindsided with.
Yes.
You've named that there's obviously many boards and committees, and with that, I'm sure that the meeting minutes are probably public record. Available to everybody. Where's the one-stop shop and where we can log in and do our research on a topic we're concerned with?
City website.
cityofmadisonsd.com.
All boards are through there?
Yes, I believe they are. Yeah, you just have to look for the different departments in that, and then it'll have in there, when their meeting is going to be, and all of the agenda has to be published at least 24 hours prior to a meeting, and typically in that, the only things that you can discuss are the things that are on the agenda, especially if you're going to make any motion on anything, because that's how you blindside the public. Is all of a sudden you bring something up and you vote on it and it wasn't on the agenda, they didn't have an opportunity to be represented. Now here, where we're just having an open discussion, we're not going to make any decisions, so this allows us to do this, to visit with you. But
Go
yes.
out there to the publications. If you go out to our website, go to publications, and then it will bring up all of minutes. It's publications and then minutes, and then all of the boards are listed under there. And we keep at least a year's worth of minutes out there.
And then also, you can go on your website and you can watch tonight's meeting. We have a camera that's located right up there. It will see our faces, but it'll see the back of all your heads.
So make sure
And
you
that-
walk back this way and wave.
Yes.
When you come through.
It gives the people that are at home an opportunity in that, to see what really went on and what was discussed at the meeting without having to actually come in here, especially if it's weather like this where it's slippery and icy under feet. Other questions or comments? Yes?
I have an easy one. You said it's 3-year terms?
Yes.
How many times can you run for commission?
I can run
There's no
forever.
term limits.
Okay.
Yes, until people say, you're. Yes.
Yeah, don't know too many people who.
Yeah. We just had the funeral of one of our former mayors, who was mayor for 9 years, and that here this last week. And during his time in office, and that was when the sewer treatment plant was built, and when Highway 34 that you drive on now from here to Coleman, came into play. And so I had a nice opportunity to visit with him a week or so ago during that tenure that he was here from 72 to 80. Mayor Huners was passed away in office, and that he was up for his ninth year. Gene Hexum then was appointed to fill out his last year, and then ran twice. So Gene was mayor for 7 years. This is my 4th year. I don't remember many others in that, but we've had some 3-year mayors, but oftentimes they'll run 2, sometimes 3 times, and then it's you know when it's time for someone else, so
The citizens let you know.
they do. And one of the things in that that I feel as mayor when I come in is when someone calls into City Hall and they want to talk to the mayor, they want to talk now. And so my cell phone is out there. My cell phone number is out there, and if someone wants to talk, they don't want to be put off for a day or two. They want, their concern is right now. Sometimes when you get a phone call and that, they already know the answer. They just want someone to talk to about it. And sometimes there's something that you can do. And sometimes in that, it's a situation where it's an emergency in that, and his department sees that more so than the rest of us. But if you remember a few years back, in that we had the well collapse, and that was something I was not anticipating nor expecting. And
Me either.
what's that?
I didn't expect it either.
Yeah, no. So you never know what's going to happen. One of the things that we always keep in mind, and that's in Mr. Waldner's department, that is safety. Again today, and that on the news, and that another police officer was shot. And it's an unfortunate situation that those things have to happen, at all. But it's one of the things that we as a commission, we're concerned for all the employees and all the people that live in the town. And when we sit up here and that, we try to run all of that across the table and that on any of the decisions in that we make. So, other questions or comments? Yes.
If you end up, coming across something like a street light or something like a sidewalk or anything like that you have a question or that needs to be fixed, or you see an issue, who would we call or talk to specifically?
You can call City Hall and that. You can call myself. I've got a phone call on 2 potholes this last week. One of them was one of our city streets, and one of them happened to be on the state highway. And both of them were addressed. I have not driven by to see if they have been repaired. You could call Commissioner Johnson and that. He's Public Works and that, or Commissioner Corbin and tell him he's got a light out. And,
There is a form on the electric department's website for
Mhm.
submitting burnt out streetlights too. That works really well. I just used it a couple of weeks ago.
Or there's a spot right on our homepage too. If you click on the feedback form, you can put anything you want to in there. So if you have any kind of a concern, then it gets passed to the department that it should go to.
Well, we are interested in knowing those things as soon as possible. And somebody approached me this week about, after this first snow, about they didn't have any trouble having to get their street off the car, or their car off the street. Boy, if we had streets on the cars, we'd really have a liability issue, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Man, that'd be incredible.
Be a bad day.
Anyway, but the sign that they, was my, the closest to their home was extremely small. I went and looked at it, an outdated sign. It's one of those things they pointed out to me that, yeah, should take a look at that. So,
Streetlights are tough too. There's a couple thousand of them, and city crews aren't working around the clock. There are police officers out, but it's certainly not their main responsibility to check in every time there's a streetlight out. So if you do see one, let us know.
We don't know, and we can't fix it if we don't know about it. And obviously, we don't drive on every street in town ourselves, and so.
The other thing, if any of you are ever interested in serving on any of the committees in that, don't hesitate to, let City Hall know, So,
You could run for commission too. Kelly and
You
I
can.
are up for re-election. You could get a petition, I believe, in February.
Starting in January, yep.
Yeah, due by the end of February.
politics is the art, when somebody said that politics is the art of getting things done, and that all politics is local, so trying to get things done is a very local issue. I can't think of a better place to start in public service than what we're trying to do here, and what we do with the other people for the citizens of Madison. A friend of mine in state government once said, the farther up he goes in the food chain, so to speak, in state government, the harder it is to get anything done. And we have some disagreements here, but we communicate fairly well with each other, both in and out of meetings, and so, but are very regardful of open meeting laws. In other words, if Jeremiah and I, Mike, wanted to get together tonight and talk about something, we couldn't just do it, the three of us, because it'd be conflict in an open meeting.
It's a quorum.
Yeah, quorum issues.
Two of us
We're
can talk.
Very regardful of that, yeah. But this is a great place to go if you want to learn to get things done. I appreciate your involvement in this Leadership Madison, as well as your being with us here tonight.
I think that I would like to ask the people to introduce themselves so the people at home watching will know who went through leadership for Madison. If you would please do that.
Yep. Make
Thank you.
Sandra Guther, I'm with Dakota State University.
Okay.
Megan Rummel with East River Electric. Becky Glanzer with Bethel Lutheran Home. Shayla Epson with East River Electric. Amber Coombs with Valiant Living.
Eric Hepler with Lake County International.
Laura Reed with Dakota State University. Patty Henderson, Senator Williams Insurance.
Jared Nielsen with Manitou Group. Sean Devaney with First Line Funding Group.
Stacy Miller with Thrivent Financial. Amanda Trimble with James River Equipment.
Nick Podorowski with SBS.
Brian Cullen with Madison Housing Development.
Keith Miller, Wells Fargo Bank.
Jeremy Mattis, Manitou Group.
Katie Hahn, Heartland Consumers Power District.
Mandy Parford, I work at Dakota State. I'm also on the Leadership Madison Planning Committee.
Alicia Interior, I work at Dakota State and I'm on the planning committee as well. Jill Strom, James River Equipment.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Well, hopefully in that, we've provided you with some insight tonight on city government, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact any one of us. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.